authorized by chapter. There we go. Being done authorized by chapter 417 of the laws of 2021. I sure hope that we're going to be able to go back to in-person meetings here soon, or at least a version of in-person meetings. Maybe we can focus on December. We'll see how the numbers go. Okay. First order of business is to approve minutes of our of October 20th. Need a motion?
So moved.
Klaus, second?
Second.
Thanks, Anna. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Department head reports. Let me see who's on top. Recreation, Meg.
All right. So high school hockey started this week. Minor hockey, they're gonna hopefully get the snack bar open this week. They're working on getting supplies and then they'll be up and going. Let's see. The staff has been working really hard. They continue to get compliments on how the pavilion looks. The fencing around the Taylor Park, that's almost complete. We're shy 6 posts and we need about 200 more feet of wire fencing and then we'll be done with that. The cement abutment for the canoe and kayak launch is complete. So that is all ready and buttoned up for the spring. And then keeping on that topic, the fundraising continues. The Mountain Warrior sled hockey team, they had their fundraiser this past Sunday. They raised just over $1,700 for that. And I also just received just tonight that the Canton, they approved a grant application. So we're going to receive a $2,000 grant for the project as well. We have a recreation advisory committee coming up on November 30th. And then let's see here, last week, I got invited out to the Rensselaer Falls board meeting, which is nice to see some familiar faces. But it was nice to sit down with Mayor Mike and their board and get to know them and shared all the updates of recreation with them directly. So that's good. And in new news, tonight, the roll-up door to the Zamboni room broke. So we were not unable to open up the door. So we had to cancel ice after the boys varsity practice. But I have a company already lined up to come out tomorrow morning to look at the door. So that's about all of the updates to my report.
Thanks,
Never
Megan.
a
Anybody
dull-
have questions?
Yeah, I
Go ahead,
do.
Carol.
On those supplies, Megan, the last bit of supplies for the fence at Taylor Park, we're gonna be able to get that stuff?
Yes.
It's available?
Yes, I know Tractor Supply is where we got the fence posts initially, and they have thousands of them in stock.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, they have all that stuff in stock, so it's really good.
So it's not on one of those boats.
No, it's on one of the boats.
And who did you say that the grant for the dock was from, the $2,000?
The Canton Community Fund.
Oh, there was some funny feedback at the time and I didn't hear that. That's fabulous. That's
Yep.
really, really great. Really
Yep.
great. And I guess I just want to say one more time, as reading through your report, that we got to give a real big hats off and thank you to the folks at Davis Mechanical. They've
Yep.
pulled
Yeah,
us out of the queue.
Yeah, they've been fantastic to work with. The owner has me on speed dial, basically. He's always checking in. And it's nice because I think I mentioned a couple times, he was a technician at the company when he actually installed their system, and now he's the owner of the company. So it's nice to have that relationship and be able to call them on a whim and they can get up here and make fixes when we need it.
Great. Okay, thanks, Megan.
Anything else? Okay, thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Moving on, is Tim here? I don't see Tim yet. Oh, no, that's Marty. Okay, if Tim gets on here, we'll go back to him. Treasurer's report, Sally.
Okay, just to highlight some of my things, Barclays. I called this week and they've promised to have the ADA door openers here before and installed before Thanksgiving. The minutes for October 20th are the ones that you're approving tonight. Let's see. I attended a webinar on internal controls for tax collection along with the mayor and Megan this last week. And I just wanted to mention that I believe we hired the right accounting firm. As the board members all know that they're moving at warp speed and we already have one report done. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Thanks, Sally. Any questions for Sally?
I had one question about in your report, Sally, you talked about the CSEA meeting on the 7th and people could attend. Is that
Yes.
something board members could come just for information's sake, or is that not appropriate?
No, absolutely you could.
Okay,
It'd be great that if you did. It'd be great that you did.
I'd like to come to that. Thank you. I'll put it on my calendar.
Anything else? Okay. Chief, you're next.
Hello, everybody. Squared away, sorry about that. My report, if anyone has any questions about that, I can certainly answer those. But I also wanted to just give you a very, very brief update on the CSX craziness that we've been dealing with this week. Marty and the mayor and myself have had daily contact. The signage is obviously extremely lacking. I've spoken with the lady that's in charge of the company that is the subcontractor providing the signage, which I feel that they're very lacking in that regard, and it doesn't seem like I'm getting anywhere. I've had the guy add a few more signs this local, but there's a lot of confusion still. So there's a lot of trucks and people just continually driving up to the main intersection where the crossing is, and they're just trying to turn onto College Street and Church Street and all kinds of other streets. So we're doing our best, but it feels a lot like we're just herding cats in a lot of different ways. But we've gotten most of the way through. Tomorrow, I believe, is the last day of actual construction. And they said, I talked to the contractors from CSX on Monday morning early, and they were going to try to wrap everything up by Thursday evening, Friday morning, so the road is open back up again for Friday. So that's what they are aiming for. I don't have any complaints with CSX itself. From my standpoint, it's just the signage it's not good. So this is going to be what it's going to be. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anything for the chief?
We'll keep our fingers crossed that the next couple days goes well.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Chief. Certainly that's something a lot of people are talking about, especially folks on State Street. The trucks coming down State Street, and many of them quite fast, not at all abiding by the school zone. So, we've been doing our best to, or at least I'm sure I'm not alone here as a board member, doing our best to, let folks know that, that you and Marty and the mayor are doing their best, but a lot of this is just really out of our hands.
A lot of it feels like it feels like it's been a full moon for the last month and a half. It's just been craziness. So, I've been out in uniform myself, trying to help kids cross on Judson at the crosswalk, so they're not having issues there. State Street was actually Monday morning was actually the detour. I was able
Mhm.
to encourage some changes. That happened pretty quickly. So that was better, but unfortunately we can't be everywhere and it's just,
Nope.
it's not fun. Not fun at all. So I'm
Yeah.
just hopeful everybody gets through it safely and that's the best we can hope for. So, of
Yeah, thank you for that.
course.
Okay, anybody else? Thanks, chief. Okay, is historian. Oh, there she is.
Here I am.
Thank you for your report. You have anything that you need to add?
No, does anyone have questions? And then I have to talk about something that I have in my hand right now. Anybody have any questions? Did you get the whole report where the veterans pages on the back page?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I brought two home and I hadn't finished those. So I was wondering if you all got the right one. Well, Megan has given me so much history from the files of the pavilion. In fact, I was just reading here the minutes in 1973, all handwritten. And I don't know if you got into the crash pictures so much, but the history, that was all started by men. And then I have 4 pages of women that came in and took that program off. And I can't really scan all those, but I'll be mentioning names next time. Some of those women are still with us and some of them are gone. But the women did a really good job of fundraising and just doing a lot for the pavilion and the community. So it's been a pleasure. Megan, thank you for these files. And I have lots of Facebook to do with it. So thank you. And I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving if you have no questions.
I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, the assessors report. Cindy.
Okay. Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. A lot of things are going on. So after I did my report, we got the valuation work from Real Property Analysts in Syracuse, and I sent it to you guys down by email. I don't know if I got everybody in. I might have missed, I think I missed Beth and Anna and Claus. I'll send it out to you tomorrow morning. I sent it to the mayor and to Carol. So what it was is there was a sampling done in the town and the village, and they picked some of the commercial properties and they ran market analysis of what the assessment should be as of today as versus as what it is now, or what it's been since 2008, since the last reval. And some of them went down, some of them went up, and maybe for the most part, might have stayed around the same, not that much of a difference. Also, if you guys have questions on it, I'll be happy to answer. I know it was a lot I sent down and a lot of information. Also, my report, I was talking about the equalization rate, and that was last month, and I'm still running numbers, and it's looking anywhere between 80 and 85% equalization rates for next roll. So that we'll know more probably about January, end of January, beginning of February, when I meet with our CRM down in Syracuse, and he'll come out, he'll discuss the PVC that's left. So we'll know more what it's going to be by then. So I was just giving you guys an example on the report. If the equalization rate drops, it's just showing you how the exemptions, the star exemptions, how, that's going to drop, and for what it, what it is. So I gave an example of that on my report. Does anybody have any questions for me? Wow,
Yeah.
that's great.
Okay, thanks, Cindy.
Okay.
Marty, you're next.
Yes. Does anybody have any questions on my report?
Yes. Where did you go? I see you. I have a couple questions. I know you said you didn't have any update, but I'm just wondering how we can get an update about Spectrum and what they're doing at the pavilion and why that's taking so long, what the holdup is. Is there a way
Okay.
we can follow up with that?
Yes, I can reach out to them tomorrow and find
I think
out.
that would
Just
be
writing
great.
it down, so.
Having been cut off from calls and everything from Megan, we need to get that done. Also, I was in a conversation this week about the ductwork. I noticed that Dave in his report said, you know, there'd been discussion of the ductwork and no real follow-up. Was he gonna check with somebody to see whether that was a doable thing?
The ductwork down at the,
Municipal
yeah.
building. Mhm.
so what I did is, I contacted one outfit here in Potsdam, and I actually went to the yellow pages where I think they were the outfit that did the project at the county 2 years ago. And it showed there was one right on Church Street in Canton. I haven't called that number yet because I don't think it's still in business. It was Bulldog Power Washing, but they did ductwork cleaning also. 17 Church Street, I think it was. But I got a feeler out to the one here in Potsdam, and he's going to get back with me, and then he'll have to come over and take a look to give an estimate on you know, what it would be for the project. So, and that's hopefully by the end of the week, I'm hoping. So.
The other thing, maybe we can put it lower elsewhere on the calendar or on the agenda, because I know that we want to get to the zoning discussion because Monica it can't be here. But I really do want to talk about winter use of the golf course. And that may be a bit of a discussion. Can we move that, Mike, down? Can we add that to new business or something?
Well, we can go back to it, yes.
Or go
Well,
back?
that's why I put it on there, because I know, you know, some of the discussions that went on through last winter. I just felt that if we nipped it in the butt right now and you know, have a plan, at
Yeah.
least, you know, what's gonna happen there, so people can have heads up, so.
Yeah.
And if there's
I'd like-
anything that we need to do, Skip and them would need to do at the golf course to get it prepared. They're, you know, roping off areas, you know, flagging areas where, you know, we would, you know, allow them to cross-country ski or what have you, and making sure that they don't go around, you know, the wet holes, the water areas. And so there's some things that have to take place, so.
Yeah, can we circle back to that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got.
Anything else for Marty? Thanks, Marty.
Thank you.
Okay, animal control. He's not here. I don't see Tim here, is it? I haven't missed him, have I?
Mm-mm.
Okay. And Lee mentioned that she had something to do with kids tonight. She was going to try to join us. If she comes in late, we'll give her an opportunity. I think right now we're all waiting to hear about the DRI, and those have started to be announced. We're hoping within the next short period of time, we might get some information about our application. I know Monica's sitting there, and I think somebody down in her neck of the woods already received a notification, so.
Oh, put that thumb away.
Okay, with that being said, I'd like a motion to accept department head reports.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
thank you, Anna. All in favor?
Bye.
aye.
Okay, before we go into committee reports, I just want to jump to the zoning revision because Monica is here with us. And she has another commitment in about a half an hour. So I think that it would be appropriate that we discuss the zoning revision that we're working on and where we're at with it. It was documents distributed by Jerry. After Jerry and Monica had conversation after the planning board feedback. Jerry or Monica, do you want to expand on that?
Jerry, am I doing this or are you?
Jerry, you're muted.
Monica, you can go ahead.
Okay, so so Jerry sent around a memo just sort of with our thoughts on the feedback we received from the county as well as the village planning board. So I'm not sure how procedurally, you want to look at that. If, we gave you our thoughts on, things we could just make the, we were fine with the recommendations. If you guys are fine, a few things from the county, were items we had already discussed with the committee in the past. They were original comments from the county as well. And I think the committee felt strongly about keeping a few things, which were all, discretionary. And then they had a couple of suggestions that were more conditional to their recommendation, which I would think, Jerry and I we're comfortable with some tweaking of the writing. We were comfortable with those conditional recommendations from the county. So I'm not sure, I don't know how you want to do this with limited time, but or if it warrants a discussion of each item, or if you guys want to talk about what was, what the comments were from the county. With regard to the planning board, they had a handful of comments, and I think there was one item we felt we probably needed to discuss because we didn't have I think there was a question about where to put dog parks in the definition section, whether we can just consider them parks, in which case they would fall under the parks definition, or if you wanted to single them out, specifically. So anyway, I'm not sure how if everyone had a chance to look at that memo, are there items that we should discuss further, or are you comfortable with our recommendations, I guess is probably the easiest way to do this.
I may not be the best one. Yeah, go ahead, Anna, because I've been in this conversation. So why don't you go first?
In direct answer to your question, I am comfortable with your recommendations. I feel that you are the expert here, and so I would follow that. I do have a question actually about the code, but I can ask it after this conversation.
That's essentially what I was going to say, but also having been a part of the conversation, of all these meetings going along, even though it's not really my bailiwick, I learned a lot and heard a lot. And I felt like your responses, whether to say okay or whether to respectfully disagree, were consistent with the conversations I heard, some of the discussion we had, or the direction of the discussion we have. And I just really appreciate the time, Monica, you and Jerry took going through. I appreciate the time of the planning board and the planning office to really, really go through it thoughtfully, and for you to consider their input thoughtfully and give us something to work with. So nothing jumped up at me, so I would support your recommendations.
I would as well. I totally support it. Having been on both the planning board and ZBA, this will be a big improvement and a big help to operations. And good job.
And I would just say thank you for your expertise. I think that this is a really great way to move forward. And I agree with the rest in terms of what the recommendations are.
I was pleased with, how the responses came out, and laid out at the, what the county brought back to us. What is it that you said we needed to discuss? One item?
I think the only thing that Jerry highlighted was we just weren't sure. So the planning board would like the code was concerned that the code didn't reflect that the village planning board, anything about dog parks. And
okay,
the
that's what-
definition of park is so broad that frankly, both Jerry and I feel like dog parks would fall under park. So if a park was proposed, if the village wanted to do a park, that dog parks would fall under the definition of parks. So the only reason to target a definition of parks and single them out would be if you didn't want to treat them like other parks in terms of, an allowance in the use table where village parks are allowed. That would be the only reason to single them out. Otherwise, the definition is broad enough that any dog park would fall under parks. And we just weren't sure because the planning board did seem to want to avoid dog parks near schools and the commercial corridor zone, which would require us to basically line them out in the code. If it's a public park, I assume the village would look at all aspects of what makes for a good location for a dog park. And, we'll look at everything related to adjacent uses, et cetera. So I'm not sure it's necessary to carve that out. But that was the one thing we just wanted to make sure that there wasn't, that the board, you village board members didn't feel there was a need to single out. And because otherwise we're comfortable that dog parks fall under the general definition of park.
I think we can, at least from my opinion, be comfortable with that. We would just want to make sure we had some control. It's come up before and there's been discussion about it before. So I think that that's what's important is that we had some control over maybe where they went.
And I guess I do appreciate the planning board thinking about that and being thoughtful because I too would be concerned, potentially about some of the things that they have pointed out. So is it typical, Monica, to carve that out or to keep it under the umbrella of parks?
I've never carved out dog parks. Usually park is a park is a park, I think is sort of what Jerry said, and I would kind of agree. The one thing that you get when you start listing out every type of use you could possibly envision in a park, then it's may include, but is, but not exclude, inclusive, not completely inclusive. It's very difficult to put a whole laundry list of uses under park. So we try to avoid that because then people get sucked into the idea that, oh, well, these are the only things that are considered a park. Doesn't matter how many times you put may include. So it becomes a little unwieldy to list every type of thing that would constitute a park. So we do try to keep that definition fairly loose, other than it is a public park and operated by the village or an organization representing the village. So that, that would be your control therefore, because it would be up to you whether you put the park in or not.
Okay, thank you.
The only other thing we identified from the village planning board was they made the north side of West Street under the proposal is going to be designated GMU, general mixed use. The planning board wondered whether it would be more appropriate to designate it as neighborhood mixed use. And I pointed that out as we'll need further discussion by the board. I think Monica's proposal was that it's more appropriate as general mixed use because of what's there now and trying not to make it more restrictive than what's there now.
Right. The neighborhood mixed use is a more protective district, and it probably would curtail some of the uses that are there now would not be permitted nearly as easily. So, unless that's the direction you want to go in, the neighborhood mixed use is really about a very a residential character where there was typically residential uses, but we're allowing some adaptive reuse of those residences for commercial uses. It's not intended to be a district where you would tear down buildings for commercial. In fact, we don't allow that. So these are traditionally areas that were residential, that we're allowing a limited amount of commercial, recognizing that over time there are busy corridors that are less palatable as single family homes, although that was probably their traditional use. So it is a fairly, restrictive, it's a new district, but it isn't where this would be proposed is actually mostly a commercial area now. It's zoned commercial now as a C2, I believe. Jerry, I can't remember. Was that C2 or anyway, it's either C2 or B1 right now. So we would be curtailing uses that are allowed if we went with the NMU, the neighborhood mixed use. So that's why we kept it more in the spirit of what's there now and what it's traditionally been. But we could do that change. I'm just not sure it quite fits.
I mean, this is where it's difficult, I think, to say, how it's been used and what the intent or the best use of it would be going forward. To me, I think that the neighborhood mixed use made sense because it is right there in the middle. I think if the county moves out of there and some things, the idea is to have that be more of a residential neighborhood kind of thing with some of the allowances that the NMU allows. But I think it's interesting that the planning board was the one who's suggesting this.
So we would still allow all
do
the
we know why?
residential uses. So that doesn't change. So this would allow residential. It's just that it.
Yeah,
also-
no, I know.
Yeah.
It would be, this would, the neighborhood mixed use leans more toward the residential than the general mixed use, right?
Right, because the only commercial allowed is adaptive reuse of
Right.
existing buildings, correct?
I mean, I liked it when that's what you called it to begin with, and I still like that. But I am cognizant that it's the planning board asking.
And did they give any sort of like context to their recommendation?
And
The reason was that it was close to the downtown mixed use zone. The exact statement in their report was the north side of West Street would be appropriate for a neighborhood mixed use designation, comma, being close to the downtown mixed use.
Right. I see that. I guess I was looking for something a little more. Yeah,
I didn't see any further rationale behind that
okay.
recommendation.
so we have it as general mixed use and they're suggesting neighborhood mixed use.
Correct.
Got it. I have to admit something to you. To everybody here, I read the whole thing on all the reports from the planning office and did not see this. I just overlooked this.
Well, this is in the village planning board.
I see that now. I think I thought they were all in one, so I'm just seeing this. I apologize for that. So I'm just slowly understanding this. I mean, I guess.
So the proposal right now is for general mixed use to be on both sides of West Street.
Right.
So the south side of West Street would still be general mixed use under the planning board's proposal. It's just the north side. We would extend the neighborhood mixed use, which is present on Park Street, right down the north side of West Street to, well, really one lot in from Minor Street.
I don't disagree with that. I would not have a problem making that change. Monica, you feel like that could be okay too?
Well, I mean, and as long as people are comfortable with the fact that the only commercial allowed therefore going forward is adaptive reuse of existing buildings, or certainly if it's residential, if it's a commercial building already, then you can put another commercial use in there. Right now, that is not a restriction. So like in your current code, I mean.
Yeah.
So there would be, it would be a layer of, so I guess, and I apologize, off the top of my head, I don't know those buildings, but are those buildings that you would want to protect the character of? Because that is kind of, in my opinion, a key reason to use the neighborhood mixed use. If the character of those structures is not, because they would not be able to tear those down for commercial, whereas right now they could.
It's a neighborhood, it's a neighborhood, really. It's the edge of a
Yeah.
neighborhood.
Right.
Mhm.
So then maybe it's appropriate, which is fine. I mean, that's I defer to you guys on the character aspect of things. And the thing we wanted to just note was that it is downtown. It is zoned essentially downtown there now,
Yeah.
which is a looser zoning than the neighborhood mixed use would be. The general mixed use is probably more in keeping with the character than downtown, just because it's not as dense as downtown, so that character is probably not, the character of the general mixed use of the neighborhood use is probably character-wise more of a better fit than the current downtown designation in your current code. So either one of those would work from a density and a build out standpoint, because those districts are not very different. The way we've crafted them, height and bulk and setbacks are generally fairly close. So I don't think you'd lose or gain anything there. So that I think that would be fine. So it's really just, to me, it comes down to as long as you're comfortable with the fact that, people, that you are looking to protect those existing structures and the residential character of that street, then I think it's fine. Yeah.
I think so. I would support, following the planning board's recommendation. Myself.
I'm just looking at Google Earth Maps here. I guess the benefit of doing this by Zoom.
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem mostly residential, with a couple of, maybe not so much, but just a couple, like, I don't.
There's an apartment
yeah.
house kind of in the middle of the street
Right.
on the north side. And I think the rest of the properties are single family homes, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
So, and multifamily is allowed in that district, so that would be fine. That's not a.
Personally, I can go with the will of the group on this. I don't feel like I have a strong opinion.
I don't necessarily either have a strong opinion, but I do appreciate that it's from the planning board. That's the recommendation is coming from the planning board. So.
Yeah, I could go either way on this. I don't have a strong feeling either way. But if the planning board recommends it, I'd be fine with it.
We could give the planning board a win.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a thoughtful one. I do think it's a thoughtful one. If you, I don't know, Monica, if you can picture that street, but one side is pretty much residential and the other side has a couple of real nice houses, and then that building that has like a Service Master in it.
Oh, yes.
Big parking lot.
Yep.
And then another building that at one time was a hairdresser, and at one time, and I don't even know what it is now, but there's not, the sides of the street are different.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
very different. Yep.
Okay. So then let's go with it. So that will just be a map change. Anything else is needed for that. We can do that.
And are we agreeable to removing townhouse use from the residential single-family district? That was the first recommendation the village planning board made.
Yeah. Um, I do not necessarily agree that townhouses are antithetical to single-family structures.
Either.
I agree with that.
So the one thing to point out also with that is if we were to do that, there's the one existing planned residential at the end of Canterbury, that parcel, we would probably, because it's not all built out, when we discussed this, actually had a whole discussion about that area and townhouses and put that in that district, that would, if we want to potentially allow that build out going forward, we would need to zone that something else. So the only other option would be multifamily if we take the townhouses out. So, or they'd have to come back in for like a new PDD or something. So that's the one thing that was the one area that I know we discussed specifically when we were considering the whole townhouse question, was where could this be used? And I know that parcel came up, and there are previous projects there that are clearly not just single family homes, they're townhousey type buildings. So,
It could work to rezone it as well, because that property borders on multifamily.
right, so we can do that without right, it is contiguous with a multifamily zone, so we could do that and it would work. But that would probably be something that Jerry and I would recommend if we were taking the townhouse piece out. But I did want to throw that out there, that it does sort of, I think, mean we have to make a few other, that at least that change just would make sense because that's an existing situation. So if we leave it in, then we just, then they can continue to build that out.
So I think it's of note that this was the only item that they moved, seconded, and passed as a committee. Admittedly, some of the people on the planning board are newish. But to me, that speaks to, we're asking them to, study this, be thoughtful about it, consider it. I guess I'm torn between, Monica, you would be comfortable with the possible compromise?
Yes, I agree with you all that they're not and whatever that word was. I would agree with you guys that they're not, that they can be fit right in with a single family, generally a single family neighborhood. But I think if we cover that one area, by making that change, I mean, this is really your comprehensive plan didn't say turn all your single family districts into, diverse housing options all the way around. I think you do have a lot of multifamily zoning in your village. So I think you are, different housing options are available in a good portion of the village. Your zoning is proportionally more diverse for housing than, some village codes would be. So I do think you have options. And so I don't, if you didn't have that, if I didn't feel like you were fairly well zoned for a variety of housing options, I would say you're running out of space and maybe this would be something to consider, but I do think you have a fair amount of housing options. And I don't know I know you guys were having a housing study done. I don't know the outcome of that really spoke to this issue per se. So in terms of the types of housing, the market, what housing market needs you have, did that provide guidance on where you should be on this at all?
I guess the one place that I would say that it did or does is it speaks, the analysis spoke strongly of the need for residences for people like me, people who want to get out of their big house, want to be in a single, want to be in their own dwelling, but that has less, property maintenance and all that, which I think would be a townhouse and so actually,
Yeah.
truthfully, it did speak to that.
I was just, so this is the conversation I've been having in my head while we're talking about this, is that I feel like this, marketing study that we have done, that we're, using with our housing strategic plan, really points to the fact that we really need diversified housing options, that we need more, townhouse type options in our community. So I feel nervous about saying, making a change that would limit that ability, given that that's something that's been identified as a need.
Right.
And but I also feel that I am not adequately educated enough to understand where the planning board would be coming from in saying that it is antithetical. Like, I don't, like, I would like to understand why they are saying that. What is the data that they are drawing on to make that argument? What is the concern there? I just don't know.
One thing we could do too, if it's a matter of magnitude, is, like, you can just limit the cluster of what the townhouse, it could be a, no more than 3
units.
3 units per building. You can just put that right in there. And that's how a lot of communities, when they do allow townhouses in some of their more traditionally single family home neighborhoods, have found a way to, still try to maintain that feel, that you don't overbuild and create what feels much more like an apartment complex, with just a different tenancy structure, ownership structure. So that's one thing that's, and I don't know what their concern per se is, but if that is one of them, that's a really easy thing to just write right in and limit.
I like that compromise.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That would work.
Yeah, I just found it. It says over 60% of owner households in the area that they studied are comprised of 1 or 2 people. Since 2010, the number of homeowners living alone has increased by nearly 15%. This suggests a need for smaller homes or townhouses.
Yep.
That's why I brought it up, because I thought that was
I guess an idea, a proposal that I would make is that we leave it as is and see what if anything comes in the public hearing. See if there's more outcry for or against it. Is that like a backwards way to do this?
No, I mean,
so we've got the planning board suggesting one thing. We've got our consultant sort of going one way. We've got those of us who are working on the housing task force and looking at the market analysis saying something. Well, what we're seeing is points toward leaving it as is. If we did that and then found out that based on conversations here, the public came, stomping in and really want to get townhouses out of there, we listen to that. Is that, so in other words, respectfully disagree with them
and leave it as is.
I would definitely like to have the flexibility there. So I would agree with that. And if there needs to be a compromise, I like what Monica suggested in terms of having 3 per unit, or 3 units per structure.
Cluster, yeah.
I think that would be a
Or
good
even
way to
2.
Where you could do 2. I mean, right, you could just do twins, right?
Yeah.
Which
I
is
mean,
really,
that's sort of like a duplex.
right.
Yep.
That's right.
And that really, the footprint of that could be easily no more than your average
Mhm.
larger single-family home these days. I mean, it's
Right.
really not any different in
Oh, right.
size.
Right, right.
Right.
We could do that. That's one, we can write that in. That to me seems like a good compromise, and it might curtail, whatever the concern is about that, it might make people
That would
feel,
deal with it. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
you
like
would
that.
keep townhouses as a special use allowance?
Right, it was always a special use too. That's the other thing. It wasn't an as of right use, so it was always going to go through a process, for review to make sure there aren't impacts that need to be addressed. I mean, it's an allowed use. A special permit is hard to deny, but it at least looks more carefully at adjacent impacts and things like that, making sure there's, traffic and the land is suitable and can carry the units, et cetera. Like all of that would be looked at. So I think there'd be enough room for the planning board if they had concerns about a specific project that they could work with that.
Sounds reasonable.
So are we going as is? Are we going to?
Mhm.
True.
2 units.
We're going to keep it, but limit it to 2 units per building and keep it as a special use permit
Right.
allowance.
Okay. So that'll be written into one of the into Article 7, I believe. But anyway, so I'll have to put that language in, but so we'll get that drafted into there.
May I ask a question about the,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Jerry.
No, go ahead.
May I ask you, I'd like to ask a question about the code that's not related to the changes, but about the, not related to the feedback that we've received, but a general question. Is now an okay time for that? Are we done with the changes?
Well, I want to know where we're headed with the zoning up revision. Is this
Okay.
part and parcel to the zoning revision or,
Yes.
okay, go ahead.
I am just, so I've been reading it and trying to understand it. And so I just want to make sure that I understand. It seems to me that tiny houses are not allowed. And is that true? And if it is true, why not?
So they can be, well, one thing we're gonna actually have to take out is we had put a minimum square footage size on like manufactured homes, which theoretically could be tiny homes as well. We are gonna have to take that out because there's a 2019 new New York State regulation that is more protective of manufactured homes. And so you can't treat them differently essentially in terms of size than a single family home. So we can treat all single family like principal dwelling, like we could have that be the minimum size for a principal dwelling or principal building be 720 square feet, but that would have to apply to, that would just apply to everything. It wouldn't apply to homes per se, or no, wouldn't apply to certain types of homes. It would just be a minimum building size. Having said that, for tiny homes, you could do it as an accessory structure. We haven't limited that. In terms of it being a principal
You can.
dwelling, that's where if we go with the 720 square feet as a principal use, then the way this was considered, this is written to not have them be the primary use of the parcel. So they could be accessory dwellings, but not primary.
But there were also,
Okay.
it had to be on foundations, had water and sewer.
Right.
Mhm.
So that was, and this, we did have a considerable amount of discussion of tiny homes. Because they are becoming more common. I'm seeing them mostly as accessory structures down here in communities, not so much as the primary structure. Certainly not in any of the cities I'm working in. I'm not seeing them as primaries. I'm seeing them as accessories. And even in the rural communities, I'm mostly seeing them as accessories. Now not to say that somebody, you know, it's their principal dwelling, but they're usually popping up on somebody's property where there's already a house.
Mhm.
Right.
That's mostly what we're seeing. I think in the Northeast, seeing primary structure tiny homes is going to be less of a thing.
Mhm.
Especially because they do have to be so well insulated, and by the time you're dealing with all of those things, they're just really, they're actually quite expensive. So they're not necessarily they work very nicely as accessory dwellings for folks, but not so much as primaries. But this is your call. I don't, you know, I'm facing this question everywhere. Everyone's not sure what to do about tiny homes. And there's not an easy answer. But if we did go with just a general rule of thumb of a minimum size for a primary building to be 720 square feet,
Right.
that would basically say a home, a commercial business, whatever, 720 square feet, that's your minimum building size. And then somebody could therefore, and that would, everybody would be treated this, you know, every building would be treated to that basic standard. I don't think we can really do much else, to be honest. Things have just changed in terms of how you can certainly require a foundation, removing of hit hauling mechanisms and towing devices, skirting, you know, you can do those things, but you have to treat them like single family homes. Manufactured homes I'm talking about, which, you know, the old HUD mobile homes were 320 square feet.
Right.
They are almost non-existent at this point. I think your average mobile home, manufactured home, is at least 5, 6. Most of them are 900 square feet. There's still some out there that are between 7 and 9, but they're becoming fewer and fewer. And so the new thing is the tiny home, because mobile homes have gotten so much bigger.
Okay. Thank you.
Jerry or Monica,
I am gonna have to hop off because I have another planning board meeting in a minute. So I just didn't know if you needed anything, if you wanted to discuss. I mean, I think Jerry, whatever your plans are going forward. Didn't know if we could.
that was my next question about
Okay.
what we're gonna do with the process. If we have enough information for the change to do a public hearing and a vote on this in December or not. And I think that's where we're at. We have to hit certain benchmarks here.
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
The drafting part can be done, I think, because you'll need a clean draft to put out there for the public hearing, but these edits, I've mostly made all of them. I probably could have a draft back to you by tomorrow.
Right.
But so, or, you know, by the weekend at the latest. I'm out of town on work on Friday, but I could turn this around for purposes of getting it reposted with the changes within the 3 weeks for the public hearing. So, and getting the seeker documents together. So for that,
The comments the county planning office made, I think we identified those that we agreed with, and we will make those changes, and we identified those that we disagree with. So we'll just keep those and we'll report back. On the 720 square foot, are we gonna do that for all homes? Is that the consensus here?
or you can just take it out. It doesn't have to be a provision, period. You just be silent on it. It will still, everything will still have to meet building code. Keep that in mind. Which has its own, it drives its own square feet for certain habitable spaces, et cetera. So
So if the board would rather take that out, Monica will just remove that from the manufactured home section and leave it blank.
correct. Yeah, I was going to delete the 2 sections that relate to size.
That sounds.
The local law, if you're going to vote on it, has to be in final form at least 10 calendar days exclusive of Sundays before you take your vote. So your next meeting would be on December 15th, I think. So we count back that way. If you want to have a public meeting on the 15th, you would need to pass a resolution this evening authorizing posting of the notice for 3 consecutive weeks because it affects more than 12 properties in the village. We would also publish it in the official newspaper. It would also be on the website. Publication would have to take place at least 10 days before the public hearing, so by the 5th of December. So that's really, we're talking about the week after Thanksgiving to get the publications done, and really starting next week to start the 3 weeks, because you got 3 weeks and then you got the week of the public hearing. So you want to get it done during that time frame.
Sounds like
If you want to see a final draft with all the changes we've talked about, you can do that and hold off until the December meeting to decide that you want to have a public hearing and you approve this. Your public hearing would then be in January. Because you still have to have the 3-week posting requirement and the publications and everything.
I am comfortable that this has been carefully scrutinized and that Monica has heard, that you guys have done the review and the recommendations you have, and that Monica feels like she can get those changes made to keep it moving. And to try to schedule to resolve to have the public hearing in December. That seems reasonable to you, Monica.
That's doable from my end. Yep. I am gonna have to duck off. I'm sorry.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Just let me know what the upshot
I'll let
is.
you know tomorrow, Monica.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Monica. Bye-bye.
So what would the board like to do? Think we're in good shape?
Sounds like we could do December.
Anna,
I'd be fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Beth, you okay?
Yeah, I think we can move forward.
Let's do
Okay,
it.
Carol, you're okay?
Mhm.
Okay, do we have to do anything right now, Jerry?
You need to authorize by resolution that we would post the notice of the public hearing for 3 consecutive weeks rather than send notices to each property within the village that's affected by the change. So that'd be the resolution you have to follow. Then I would you'd resolve to have the public hearing at the December 15th meeting, and you'd authorize me to publish and post according to your resolution.
So resolved.
Second.
Second.
How much time do you want to leave aside for the public hearing?
That, those are tough calls. We could say half an hour, but
20 minutes.
we could also be sitting here.
Oh, no, I think we need way more than 20 minutes.
Half hour.
I was gonna say an hour. I have a question. Should we do the public hearing on a different day? Or am I dreaming? Is this gonna be fast?
Well, I think,
You could do the public hearing the day before your regular meeting if you wanted to on the 14th. And then you have up to 62 days after you close your public hearing to take your vote. So even if you had, whatever day you have your public hearing, you don't have to vote on it right away. You can, but you don't have to.
A public hearing the day before would put us in a position where we wouldn't be up against stopping for another meeting.
Right.
Sure.
So
Work.
Do you want to do it on the 14th at 6:30?
it's fine with me. Can the board support that?
Sure.
Yes.
Would this be a Zoom meeting or in person?
Oh,
at
let's
this,
do in person.
We've been
If
talking.
you're doing all of them as Zoom at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about when we're gonna be able to go back to,
Mhm.
in-person meetings. We're and Carol and I had talked a little bit about this anyways, that it would have been nice to try to focus on December. I'm not comfortable that the numbers right now are coming down.
No.
But I'm willing to do it either way. We can do it as a, in both ways, we can be here and we can, have it on Zoom.
Personally, I think that December is a pretty busy month. And I think being able to hop on a Zoom, I mean, I get accessibility issues. So if we were in person and had a hybrid, or if we just did it on Zoom, I think you might get more people. Because if you're running, like, it takes time to get places. And one of the beauties about, or silver lining of this pandemic is that people can hop on meetings that they might not have been able to get to. So just food for thought. And I'm willing to do it the day before. And I don't know if December impacts whether or not we think we would have more in January or not. But those are just thoughts in my head, thinking out loud.
It doesn't matter to me. We can do it either way, as a hybrid or whatever. I'll be here.
I would like to, I like the idea of doing it a separate day because, and not bumping up, it would make us feel, I mean, maybe it'll only take 20 minutes. But I would like there to be plenty of time for discussion. I mean, it took us longer than 20 minutes to talk to Monica.
Right.
I just think I do not want to give people short shrift on this.
Sure.
I would agree. It's really important.
I would propose that we do it on December 14th at 6 p.m. because I have a garden share meeting at 7, and that we either do it on Zoom or offer hybrid. I think it would be great to have some of us in case there's somebody who has something they want to talk about and aren't able to get online.
So here's another question. If you have another meeting that day, would it make sense to do it the 13th instead of the 14th, or is that crunching our time too much?
Doesn't matter to me. It'll go more than an hour, so I'm happy if we can do it at 6. That would solve it for me.
As a public hearing too, there is more flexibility for people there. If Carol has to leave, I mean, there'll be minutes and of all of it.
So I have a question in terms of law. If we have a public hearing and we say that it starts at 6, do we have to say it's 6 to 7, or do we just say that it's 6 so that
We start at 6 and it can last as long as it lasts. The notice does not give an end time.
Okay.
We'll start at 6, it could end at 6:15, it could end at 8:15, however long it takes.
Yeah, let's do
I'm
it.
fine with the day before. I'm fine with 6, and I am fine with hybrid. I think that I'd be fine to get back in the room personally. And I think that if Zoom allows more people to join us, so much the better. But let's get in the room.
I'm with you. I would totally be happy to get in the room and be in person, but I do appreciate the fact that some people might be able to just, even get on their phone if they're in transit.
Sure.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, let's do Tuesday, the 14th, 6 o'clock hybrid. That sounds like the best bet.
Okay. Now we get to go back. Committee reports, I guess. Oh, did we vote on the resolution?
Oh, I resolved it.
I seconded it.
And I'll say aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we can go back. Committee reports. Who has
I'll
something
be
to say?
happy to go. Because Lee has not yet joined us. I will just say that we have the housing, I don't know even what we're calling ourselves, Anna, but the Housing Task Force or Working Group or something
Yeah.
like that has been meeting, and that's been very helpful. The goal of that is to come up with a strategic plan, a housing strategic plan. And we've had really good participation from people in the community, business people, people who are involved in recruiting and retaining people in the community, real estate. So that's been great. We're waiting to hear on the DRI. I have a little intel today that I just received that there could be one $20 million grant in the North Country or 2 10s. The intel we know is that there's 2 10s.
Oh.
So we didn't apply for 20. So there's 2 10s. So that just means, I don't know, we're still in the running. So
We have a better shot by there
no,
being.
I don't think
2 10s.
better. I think just a shot.
We have a shot.
And we're still, the CARES application still is in the works for the 500,000 for small business assistance, and we're keeping that going. I think that's really all we've got there. And Rec, I think Megan covered everything very nicely. Communication and technology, I do have a few things there. We are working on setting up a training since Tracy's new in the village clerk's office and Heidi will be back in the town clerk's office. We are scheduling with North Shore Solutions an hour long, at least 1 hour long training to just get them up to speed and refreshers and all that in early January. And that'll be for all the staff in the clerk's office. Sally, one thing I was thinking about that, if Tracy would like a little sort of a primer in the meantime, I'd be happy to spend some time with her, if that would be helpful. Before.
I think she might feel comfortable with that. Yes.
Okay, I'd be happy to come in and do some stuff before that. The other thing is that for a long time, I think everybody knows that we've been trying to work toward, been setting up the system so that we can make the documents that we, the committee, the board reports and all the other documents that we use in our meetings available publicly. That we've been pushed, we've been preparing, but now with the changes in the Zoom and in the open meeting law because of Zoom and post-pandemic and all that, it is now required that all materials that are used in, that are presented in connection with a board meeting be posted to the public within 24 hours before the meeting. So we have created in our Google Drive a folder called Public Files that is available to anyone who has the link. In that drive will be 2 folders, one called Town, one called Village. And in the Town and the Village file, there will be month packets, the same as our month packets look like now. So Sally and the town clerk will have one step more in the process, which is once they put all the reports in our folders, they'll need to put one in the public folder too. So, or maybe we'll just use the same ones, I don't know. Anyway, so that needs to happen within 24 hours, that they have to be there. That is all board reports, directors' reports, resolutions, any printed material that we are supplied with that we will be considering at the meeting needs to also be in that drive. So, we've been preparing for this. We're ready for this. We're going to be able to do it. We're going to give it a whirl in December. It's effective. The need for it is effective. I think, didn't you say, Mike, tomorrow?
Yeah.
So we're going to be right, we'll be in compliance. Just as a reminder to department heads, when we moved into the Google Drive, we asked that reports be in the drive by the Friday before the meeting. And to be honest, that would be really helpful to a lot of us who have other jobs and other commitments and can't necessarily read everything the day of, or can't read things the day of. So if people could really, we will recirculate the note where we gave sort of a little outline of what would be good to have in the, in reports, but also a reminder that if we can have all, board reports by Friday in the drive, that would be a big help. But they absolutely need to be posted to the public file by 24 hours before. Does anybody have any questions about that? Anybody, Anna, anything to add, or Sally? Okay.
Thanks for your work on that.
Well, we just following the law.
Mhm.
Sustainability Committee, I'm happy to report that the Canton Community Fund is just being generous left and right. We got the $250 from them, which is for Katie Metcalf's composting project. That had to come through us because they can't make contributions to individuals. And since we're working on that project, so we will get her in to get that in her hand. And still nothing on the USDA grant that we had for the compost educator. So Lee has tried to investigate that and we haven't found anything. We can't find out about that. And finally, the first ever report from the Finance Committee. We are, Mike and Sally and I will begin those monthly meetings. We'll be meeting the second Thursday of the month, which will give us hopefully time to, have everything ready for the Wednesday meeting and the Friday. So we have a big long list of to-dos, thanks to Jerry's good, our response letter, and so we're ready to go with that. That's all I've got.
Other committees?
Quick update on community choice aggregation. Louise Gava is working with 3 neighboring communities that may join with us, and that would give us all a larger, bargaining power and be advantageous. We should know by December who's in and who's not. Waddington, Fowler, and Potsdam are possibilities. Complete Streets, we're waiting to hear back from Eric Backus on the study, the Park Street, Court Street study. And he's also helping us out with Judson Street improvements. Also, we expect to be meeting soon with Canton Central School to discuss safety issues on State Street and around the school and the Sullivan Path. We should be discussing that. And one thing just to get on everybody's radar, we'll be getting some funding for EV chargers in the near future. I'm hoping and betting that there'll be federal funding for those. So just kind of keep that. We're looking for locations, both village property locations and even like gas stations and, private businesses that could conceivably get them. So I kind of keep that in mind. And if you have any brainstorms on great locations, I'll be happy to be the collector of input on that. And it'd be good to have them locations lined up and be shovel ready. So when the federal funding comes, we'll be ready to go and get a bunch more chargers in the village. That's it.
Klaus, can I ask a question? I think we do need to be thinking about that. What committee purview is that, the EV chargers? Like where should that live so that we be sure that there's sort of staff oversight of that and coordination and be sure it is staying on people's.
Well, Sustainability Committee. I see it coming out of sustainability. I'd be thrilled to have more people involved in it. I've been kind of winging it, but I think sustainability would be the logical place for it. Did you have any other thoughts on that?
No, I would just like to, Sustainability Committee is not is not a board committee.
Well, how about infrastructure?
I don't know, but I think it's worth thinking about to be sure that it
I mean,
as I said, that it has a home and that it has, some staff involvement.
Sure, we discussed it this morning in infrastructure. Let's give it to infrastructure. I think that would be a totally reasonable place for it.
Does that make sense, Mayor? I don't know. I'm just trying to be sure it,
What do you think, Mike? Is that a reasonable
Well,
place?
it seems to make sense to me.
Mhm. I mean,
I
certainly,
I can live with that since Anna and you were doing
yeah, I
it.
mean, Marty's an integral part of any installation of anything, and Anna's most interested in infrastructure. I think that would be a good spot for it.
Now, there'll be some, more discussions of that as we approach our
Sure.
annual meeting too, so.
Yep.
Okay,
I have a quick update for public safety in response to recommendations for EO 203, which is the police reform. Anna and I have been working on putting together a community engagement committee. And we have been fortunate enough to meet. The chief has been, part of those conversations as well. We continue to grow the group. So there's a little bit more recruitment happening, but we do intend to do, one of our first events at the beginning of the year, say January, late January, early February. So that's my quick update.
go ahead,
And
Anna.
then, Mayor, I can talk about infrastructure, but really it falls under the American Rescue Plan stuff. So do you want me just to wait until?
Yeah, that's fine. We can bring it up there.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I don't know when's the right time to do it, but I would like to circle back while Marty's still here to talk about the winter use of the golf course.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Marty, do you want to just offer a little background on that, or does everybody know? I mean, I think the thing is that my understanding of this is that we have, in the past, there have been signs up that said, no, stay off the greens and stuff like that. The people traipsing around on the greens can do a lot of damage. But the flip side of that is that, it's a beautiful spot. People walk on the bike path and, would like to be able to cross-country ski and snowshoe or do whatever around that, large expansive area. I guess I don't know all what's entailed with this, of, whether there's history here, what has happened, how we got to where we are now, and how we might get to a place that's.
Well, and I think that's why I put it in my report, because I know last year there was a lot of discussion on this. And it brought up the issue with, there was actually people going out on the golf course, and that's when we end up putting up the signs, no trespassing. It was because we didn't want any damage done to the greens. And they were actually playing out on the frozen ponds, whatever. And we were, it was an issue of, injury or what have you. So I just assumed that was probably going to get brought up by somebody here sometime soon about, utilizing that for cross-country skiing. So I'd always said, why can't they just use the cart path if we flagged it somehow? Maybe a little wider area, but made sure that the greens were roped off. But I mean, that's gonna, we'd have to talk with, Skip and get a lot more people involved in this. If that's something that, the village wants to do. If they want to allow people to use it as a cross-country thing, then I think we need to, get Skip's input. We need to get a lot of input because we're going to be running out of time here before long, and we're going to be, right knee deep in snow and not knowing what direction to go. So.
Well, it strikes me input, but also that's going to be a fair amount of work for somebody.
Yes,
somewhere.
and that's kind of why I wanted to bring it to the table now, because like I said, come mid-December, whatever, it's going to be kind of, if you got to take and put stakes in the ground and rope, I mean, that's all stuff that's easier done now than than later. And yes, it's gonna be work, probably spending some funds to, you know, if we had to go get more rope or signs or, you know, so that's, and I don't know if this falls under the golf course committee. I don't know. But that's why I wanted to put it out there for you, for the board and the mayor to discuss this. So.
Have you ever had the conversation with Skip, Marty? Do you know where Skip stands on this?
Well, I kind of, but I don't want to speak for him unless his feelings have changed. I mean, I think everybody doesn't want anybody on a golf course when they're, but,
Yeah.
you know, in the same sense. So I think if we, you know, talk to him and see if anything was doable, hopefully he would be, you know, open to saying, yes, we could do this, or no, we shouldn't do this, you know? You gotta look at the pros and cons of everything. I mean, it's, you know, and
I mean, it's a beautiful space. It's, you know, it's an area that, you know, is used recreationally, also, you know, 3 seasons or 2 3/4. Megan, I see that you turned yourself on. Do you have, you know, do you have thoughts on this from a recreation standpoint and a you know, resources standpoint too, like space and all?
I would definitely support it if he is willing to offer it for winter recreation, because it's a demand, and people want it. But yeah, like Marty says, it just comes down to resources of getting it done, because it is a safety issue when you have ice and snow and people don't know where. So it's vital to make sure that we have it well flagged off or roped off. And maybe it's not so much a rope, or you could almost follow like what the snowmobile trails do. They just put up stakes with orange flags on them. But yeah, I think there definitely has to be some safety signage, because you don't want somebody walking onto a pond that maybe isn't frozen all the way. And obviously staying off greens and tees. And, you know, I get the golf course. My dad ran Partridge Run, so back in the day. So I get it.
You know, St. Lawrence golf course seems to do it without a problem. I ski over there all the time.
But they also track it. So that then you know that's where you stay, is where they track it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wouldn't
We need to start that
wouldn't
with
we be
a-
tracking it?
They have a groomer.
right.
We
And they
would
have a
have
lot
to do
bigger
that,
staff
right?
too. They've got a lot bigger staff. Carol, does it make sense to move forward? Does it make sense for the two of us as part of the golf committee to connect and see what our options are? And
Yeah, I had actually, maybe we, the golf committee, and Marty and Megan and Skip.
yep, that works.
But I'm with.
Can I ask a-
I'm with Marty as soon as possible, because the minute we start talking about this, we're gonna get 2 feet.
Can we?
Well, and can I ask, I mean, it seems to me that, you know, waiting until mid-December for the board to decide seems like we might miss the window to do the prep work. So, you know, I don't know. I'm just putting that out there.
Right. This, I mean, if there's gonna be a meeting, I mean, I think it'd have to happen by the end of this week or the first part of next week. And
Right.
then put together a plan and make it happen or not make it happen. I mean, you're not gonna be able to wait till the middle of December, because then by the time you
Right.
do the legwork, you're
So-
into January and you've missed your window, so.
Mhm.
You have a lot
So
of
if
things,
I can suggest,
there's a lot of
I was
things to
just gonna
consider.
say that,
Go ahead, Anna.
I would simply that, you know, given that, you know, my personal opinion is that I would like to see it allowed. I would like to see that happen. I think that is you know, something that would benefit our community, and it is a good use of our resource. Having said that, given that the time situation, I would be comfortable turning that over to the golf committee and Marty and whoever else needs to be at the table for that conversation. And then whatever recommendation that they decide is what we go with. So if it gets, taken up and it seems like not a good idea, then fine. But that way it can proceed before next meeting if we need to.
We do also meet on, it's like, we're slated to meet December 6th. I don't know if that would be too late. I'm happy to try to meet the core of us to come up with a plan prior to Thanksgiving. But I don't know if that's too long. It's another week or 10 days after that. But we're happy to probably put it in an email too.
Yeah, how about that? How about if we get ourselves together, this group that we discussed, and then, we can keep the rest of the board apprised. We'll be in touch with the mayor and with Sally if there are expenditures that are outside of recreation golf, which there will be. So.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good.
And then we can maybe finalize or whatever on the 6th. That's a great thought, Beth.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
There's will be some expense involved
Yeah.
here too. And the other piece that you have to consider is that there's infrastructure out there that has to be taken into consideration. The whole watering system out there could be damaged heavily by driving stakes anywhere.
Yeah.
So there's a significant amount of work that's going to have to go into prepping where this is going to be allowed to happen.
Mhm.
So,
And maybe we can talk about this. Maybe it happens in stages and we say this year, yep, we recognize that this is an asset that we want to have publicly shared and we really want to do it. It's going to take more time for the layout, but we can open up this small portion of the golf course or a safe portion or something like that.
Yep.
Maybe we can, just as the first step.
A pilot project.
So I'll get an email out after this meeting does anybody, Beth, me, Marty, Skip, Megan, anybody else should be in that conversation? Okay, I'll take care of that. We'll get that going. Actually, Beth, when we finish up, why don't you and I talk about sometimes that work for you?
Yeah.
And I can, in the morning, I can run right out to the golf course and have a sit down with Skip real quick, just to get, his feelings on it.
Great.
And because, he'll be able to tell me right then and there if, I understand what's gonna have to be done. Are we gonna have the time and the manpower to do it? We'll see. We'll see.
I'll get that, Marty, I'll get that email out this evening so that you can also look at it with him about possible days and times.
Okay,
We'll
okay.
try to do it during the workday so that for the three of you, it's, hopefully manageable.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yep, thank
And I'm a
you.
little bit more flexible with,
Thank you a
coming up.
lot for raising it, Marty.
Yes. Yeah, and Carol, depending on how, especially with our recreation committee, we've got Ethan on that. So if we need manpower, we've got a whole ski team at St. Lawrence, so we may be able to pull them in for manpower.
Good
I love your
thinking.
thinking of volunteerism.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thank you for circling back to that, Mike.
yep. Anna, you wanted to bring up broadband?
Well, I did. One more thing. I wanted to mention that, as you all may remember, that a member of the town and myself and Toby, I don't know what the word is, but we agreed to meet to talk about broadband. The county as collaboration with DANK has yielded in the survey that they did and the study that they did has yielded a report. I'm happy to share it for anybody that wants to take a look. It's on the county website. All just to say that at this point, Toby and I are setting up a meeting to talk with the planning office and the folks on their broadband committee to see, to get more access to the data and to see what's in the pipeline. They've indicated that collaboration with municipalities is welcome. And certainly broadband is something that is a everyone issue, not, any one particular municipality. So just a heads up that we're doing that. More to tell when there is something to tell.
Great, that's fabulous. I'm glad you're getting with them.
Okay, are there any more committee reports? Okay. Under communications and information, I don't have any that would fall under there. I got an email that I distributed to you, but yes, it was read as a public comment. The county legislator is not here. Under old business, we did the first one, the American Rescue Plan Act is the next item. I know Anna, in lieu of an infrastructure report, wanted to report on some of the things that is being worked on and prioritized on infrastructure. I will say that I talked at the department head meeting about priorities that department heads might see when it comes to the American Rescue Plan Act, and the focus by everyone was at infrastructure and specifically water supply and those type of things. So Anna, you want to talk a little bit?
Well, it'll be really easy then. To say that I think the infrastructure's committee's recommendation is that we in fact focus on water, and specifically that the ARPA money is designated for the secondary water source. The end. I think that we had some conversation of, some back and forth about, clearly we're going to have to do some bigger projects to get all of the water works that we need done. That's going to, require working with the USDA, and, hopefully we'd be able to get it some grant funding. But the number one infrastructure priority, the biggest need, the most pressing need, and also from our perspective, the best bang for the buck here would be to put this money towards the secondary water source. It wouldn't cover it all, but it would do a really nice big chunk of it. So that's what we're recommending. That's what we hope the board would elect to do. I don't know if Klaus or Marty wanted to speak on that.
That's the number one priority. Gotta have water. And the best bet at this point seems to be the secondary source. Get that in place, and then we can deal with the water towers and the more expensive parts. That'll require bonding and, other complications. Deal with them then, but let's get the secondary source going ASAP.
Should be noted that our engineering firm Tisdale Associates is working on updating the preliminary engineering report that will include a lot of these things too, so we can have some accurate information on expense.
That was the question I was going to ask Mike. So we don't really know where we are now, but so the ARPA is about 600,000, right?
It's probably closer to 6.5.
6 and some. And so with that combined with the other funding that Lee has, gathered over, that we have, how big, I know you don't know exactly what the final numbers are, but what are we talking about? How big our gap is?
Well, the last estimate was close to $1 million. The big expense is what's happened to construction supplies. And on this project, the expense will be less than, say, the 6 miles coming off of Waterman Hill, because the price of piping has gone up significantly. And that will have a big impact on pieces of it. We'll have to see what he comes back with numbers for us. So we're waiting on him updating numbers in the preliminary engineering reports. And then we can make some really educated decisions based on that. I think that initially, my thinking was moving towards infrastructure and water supply. And I think that, Anna and Klaus have spent the time. And I really think that's the best way to proceed. I would agree with that. So when we get the numbers, we'll share them.
Mhm.
And we'll be able to have a better understanding of where we're at.
And I have one more question for what we are proposing, using that 600,000 for, that is all eligible projects given the ARPA eligibility requirements.
Yes.
Great.
The guidelines are pretty clear and probably pretty simple when it comes to infrastructure like that.
Yeah.
It gets quite a bit more complicated for other types of things.
Super.
Thanks
Okay.
for the work on this. This is good.
Okay, any other questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, we'll move along. Towing bids was the next item. You received one towing bid, Sally?
Yes, one towing bid from Johnson's Towing.
Okay,
I would like to say I appreciate you putting it out for bid, knowing that you were going to get one bid from
Well,
Johnson.
I know, but I feel better about bidding it out, honestly.
Good,
It's-
so do I.
well,
Yep.
it makes sense and, it's the right thing to do, so.
Yep.
So, Sally, do we need a motion to accept that bid?
I would say it's a good idea to do that, yes.
Okay, how about a motion to accept that bid?
Moved.
Second.
Okay, that was Beth and Klaus.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, new business, authorized payment of vouchers and transfer of funds. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Anna and Beth. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next item is accept Kenneth Planny's resignation.
Move.
He was a.
Second.
Okay,
Aye.
is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, the next item was this is discussion of pay rate for Ryan Hughes at the Recreation Department. The Rec Committee brought this to me to be put on the agenda. Carol, Beth,
Yeah, the Recreation Committee has been, it was really, Megan came to us when Ken left and said that Ryan had been doing, good work for quite a long time, and she wanted to, acknowledge that work and reward that work, and suggested an increase, and we appreciated her recommendation, and so the joint Recreation Committee, Town and Village, agreed that also given the budget and the staffing changes and all with Ken leaving, that made sense.
and I will add on to this that we have had discussions about looking at pay rates on non-contract employees, and we still have that intention to do that. And the Finance Committee is going to have some things to gather up and some data to provide to the board in December. I think Carol and I have talked about this too, and even in conjunction with this. So what's the recommendation then, Carol?
So I do appreciate that, Mike, and I think that, this is the second time since we've been talking about, having more of a structure for increases for the non-contract employees, that we've sort of gotten to a place where we needed to make sort of an ad hoc one-off. It reminds me of when we do that spot zoning. It's like spot increases, and I think we need to really get away from that and have a process and have a procedure. So the Finance Committee will get on that so that we then have a process to follow for this. The proposal was, I think, Megan, was for a $1 increase. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
And I will say that given the shifts in the personnel and all that, it doesn't have a budget impact.
Right, it keeps us within budget.
okay, so the recommendation is $1 an hour increase. I would need a motion for that.
I think it came from committee, a recommendation from committee. Isn't that a motion?
Yeah, but
So
I,
you're- Yeah, so you would be making the motion, you would just need a second.
Second,
Would that be effective when?
Immediately?
next payroll.
Next payroll? Yeah, that's reasonable.
Okay.
Does that sound right, Megan?
Sounds perfect. I really appreciate it, and I know Ryan will.
Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? All in
I,
favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, I do appreciate what he has done and helped Megan accomplish for sure. And I do echo Carol, I appreciate and support us having a process for this for the future too.
And I think that's the direction we had been headed anyways, and we're going to provide that data and information on all of these positions for
Yeah.
reference. So,
Super important. So thank you.
all in favor?
I,
Okay. Next item is appointment of recreation employee. Yep, recreation employees, Robert Helms, Scott Offeld, and Bowen Rodriguez.
I would just like I'm sorry to not know that Scott Allfeld and Bowen, are those just fill-in ones? I wasn't familiar with that.
Those are both our skate guards.
Oh, skate guards. Okay.
And
Okay.
Robert is our Bobby. He's
Bobby,
our,
yeah, so we did interviews and hired Bobby. I think everybody knows that, and then moved him from part-time to full-time when Ken left, and that has worked out really well. And so Scott and Bowen as skate guards, fabulous. Okay, so
So the two of them, do we have more than 2 skate guards or is it just the 2 of them?
there's 2 of them officially hired, like with all their paperwork in. And there's a third one that I'm just waiting on paperwork.
Okay. So I'll second that.
All in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Okay, the next item was discussed and listed as possibly appoint a police officer. We did it that way pending.
Can we step back and give pay rates?
Oh,
'Cause I'll need that for the record.
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
So-
Megan,
Yeah,
Megan?
so Bobby, Robert Helms is at 15 an hour. And Scott and Bowen are both at minimum wage.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
thanks, Sally.
Yep.
Did you need Ryan's or do you have that?
No, I have, you gave me Ryan's, yeah.
Yeah, so it should be 1668.
Yep.
Okay.
Are we all set? Sorry, I got distracted. Okay, police officer. Before we named a name, we wanted to get through the background investigation Jim?
Yes. Background has gone very well. The only thing we're waiting on now is the physical, which the county funds. That's through Hepburn Hospital. That's scheduled for November 29th. And then the psychological is scheduled for December 1st. But everything so far has gone very, very well. I don't anticipate any problems. Highly recommend it.
Does the committee you like to approve the hire pending physical and psychological? Now that the background has been successfully completed.
I think we're fine with that, I guess, but you said we're not naming names, so how do we
No,
get confused on how that goes?
No, we didn't put it on the agenda because they were just
Oh.
wrapping up the background. And that
Okay,
was really the most important thing.
Yes.
The person that we're going to appoint is Gibson. James Gibson, is correct, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're ready to move forward on this, I need a motion that we would hire James Gibson. Yeah, pending approval of the psychological and his physical.
So moved.
I would second that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I would just, just to get me caught up a little bit on this, so there was a hiring process and you interviewed this person, several people?
Yes, we interviewed 3 people,
Uh-huh,
and James was the person chosen to be hired, and he has already had the police academy, so there'll be some significant savings there.
so, and where is he coming from? Does he have previous experience?
He
Yes,
works part-time in Norfolk, at Norfolk Police Department, so he's not a full-time officer. But he does have the police academy, as the mayor said.
Mhm.
And he's comes highly recommended from the chief at Norfolk Police Department.
In terms of his interview, I was really impressed with his demeanor, and he had really thorough answers. And we just had a really good conversation. So he's really invested, and I think he'd be excited for Canton.
Great. Thank you.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, pending the rest of his physical and psychological, he'll work on getting an appointment here or getting started here at some point, probably early December. Next item was talk about Court Street parking. We've gotten several complaints from business in that area of how people are parking up there. I sent a memo out to all of you, so you had a brief understanding of what the issue is. But before the police department can take any action, we have to take some action. And parking or no parking is regulated by us. The process would include a public hearing and then a simple resolution. So the issue is there's 2 parking spaces in Barclays, in front of Barclays, and somebody has turned the space from between the parking meter and the driveway into parking, so they don't have to pay for a meter. But it also blocks the access driveway in and out of Barclays. And then on top of that, we have a couple of bad actors that like to park in front of the bank building on Court Street. One in particular parks so close to the driveway that it makes it difficult to get out of the driveway. I don't think the intention ever was that there'd be parking in that section. There's a hydrant in that section, and that has to be kept clear. And I think if the intention was to have parking there, we would have put meters in, marked space. So that's what's going on. The chief has had discussions. I know Evan Poole has been in to talk about what we can do. Jim's been up there a bunch of times, and Marty's been up there also looking at how we can handle this.
What's Evan looking for?
Well, he'd like to be able to get in and out of his driveway easily. He pulls trailers in and out of there with supplies. He'd like to be able to see coming out of his driveway. And then the cars that park there end up staying there for hours or days at a time. And the chief and the police department has no recourse on dealing with it.
Because it doesn't say no
Because-
parking.
Yeah, we define
Is-
parking or no parking areas in our code.
Right, but if we don't have a meter there.
They,
And
they,
it's,
they just assume they can park there.
So what are you proposing, or what
So-
do we need to do?
Right. So we need
Well-
to say we agree to put a sign there?
Well,
Is that it?
I think we have to agree to sign it for no parking. And give the police the ability to ticket for improper parking.
I'm
that
just-
seems really easy.
Yeah, now, you said something about the parking spots being part of our code and do we need to, what do we need to do that? Just say we want signs?
Well, I talked to Jerry and he said that we do have to do it by resolution, that we don't want parking in this area, and pass a simple resolution. But in order to have any tickets hold up, we have to take this action.
Okay. And did you say something about a public hearing?
Jerry, I think you advised that we needed to have a public hearing to do this. You're
No,
muted,
you're
Jerry.
mute. You're mute, Jerry.
You're muted, Jerry.
I think you have to do a public hearing before you pass your resolution to identify a new no parking zone.
Okay.
So
Let's have a
So can
let's have a public hearing in, can we have a
On
public
December
hearing? Yeah.
6th?
Yeah,
Well,
let's do it on the 6th. Since we're meeting on the 6th,
Not that I want that to be a
I
really
know
long
that's-
meeting, but
we could have a really short public hearing for this parking matter.
But it might not be time to notice it.
normally,
Oh.
that's our annual meeting and that's all we do at our annual meeting.
all right,
You know,
let's do it on the
yeah,
14th or 15th.
we'll do it on our regular monthly meeting,
Okay,
5 minutes before.
Sure.
okay. Okay, if that's what we need to do.
That's what we need to do.
Yeah,
You
Do we
said
need-
5 minutes before?
6:25, yeah.
So Mike, what are you proposing? No parking for, the stretch to the left of the bagelry? And also in front of Evans?
I think that's already labeled, that stretch next to the bagelry.
That's all, yeah, okay.
And what I'm proposing is from the last meter in front of Barclays, going north, no parking from there up to the driveway that goes into the drive-throughs for the bank.
For the bank, okay.
So what is that, two metered parking spots?
Well, there's 2 metered parking spots right now in front of Barclays.
Right, and we will
Somebody
keep
has
those.
created on their own a parking spot that doesn't exist, and they're
Right.
just sitting there. So
Right.
we're
And
gonna,
that's funny to me.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a lot of places that are marked for parking that's for free, and they just, whatever.
Well, if it's a safety issue, I don't think, this is not hard. Let's
Well,
just
I
do
didn't
it.
think so either, but there's a process, so.
So,
Perfect.
but I'm just trying to understand, in front of Barclays, there will still be 2 metered parking spots?
Mhm.
Yep.
Perfect.
Now, if Marty gets the chance, he's gonna try to get some barrels out there, and he can do that to help prevent somebody from just sitting there. But
Mhm, mhm.
we'll go through the process, we'll get it signed, get it marked, and, go from there.
We
Great.
could use red paint like the school did a few years
No.
back.
there's a lot of, we can do some things, so. Okay, moving on. You all saw the charter communications request. I think it's awful early for that. They want to work on renewing their contract with us. There's an easy way, or there's a shortcut way to do it, and there's a full process to do it. I don't know how this falls into some of the things that the broadband committee is thinking about, but the franchise agreement for us in the community is pretty straightforward. I don't know that there's a lot of wiggle room in that. Usually the biggest thing is the length of the contract and that you're charging the maximum amount allowed for a tax, part of the franchise fee. And Sally did tell me there was something went astray in the last contract that needs to be fixed about how their property tax is computed versus the franchise fee. So I'm happy to let the infrastructure committee look at it. I'm happy to talk to them myself and set something up. Whatever your pleasure is.
We got plenty of time.
It's not like we
So
don't have
much time.
we got extraordinary amount of time.
2 years?
Yeah, it expires in probably in 24 sometime.
So, yeah, September 2024. Why wouldn't we just say, thank you very much for the heads up, get back to us in a year or a year and a half or something? I mean, we don't want to do anything right now, do we? Who knows how things might change?
We can just sit on it. It's fine with me.
I just don't see a reason in the world that we would spend anybody's time and attention on this right now.
And in the end, I was around for the last time this went around, and we talked a lot about it, but in the end, there wasn't much we could do about it. So.
Well, I certainly don't want to sign anything before we need to.
I'm okay with
Now
signing it.
looking forward to the renewal. I want to tell them, like, if they got that much time on their hands, they can come do some of my work.
Well, that's where we're at. We can wait and bring it up another time.
How about in a year?
Put it on the calendar for a year from now.
Okay. Next item was the proposed complete streets code. Carol sent that out. And I think that this will codify the complete streets program.
Just for some background for the board, the Complete Streets Task Force, which has people on it designated by the village and the town, came up with a draft Complete Streets Code, which turned out to be pretty much boilerplate from several other communities in the area. They submitted that, I guess you'd say. And so I sent it to Monica to get her input, and which she had some good input. She also shared a Complete Streets Code from Troy and 3 other places. So she and I went through and just looked at it to see what ours was missing or needed and didn't need. So this is where this was the draft that she and I came up with, or that we came up with, and then went back to the Complete Streets Task Force. Marty has had a look at this to see the parts that would really affect him, some reporting on Complete Streets measures, which Marty's sense was if they were doing the work and it counted as he would have that wouldn't be a huge additional task for him. So I know this is the first time anybody, some of you have seen this. Here it is. It's been approved or, endorsed by the Complete Streets Task Force. And a hope is to get it approved as expediently as it can, so that when code changes go or to, maybe to try to make it go through at the same time as the zoning code so that the changes can be made to the code at the same time. It doesn't have to happen. It was just a thought for making it more efficient.
Mhm. Looks good to me.
Has everybody had a chance to read it?
Mhm.
So I have had a chance to read it, but honestly, it is the first time that I have seen it, and I'd like to read it again. And my first read through, I have questions, which I don't necessarily know that this is the format that we, or the time, looking at the time that we want to launch into my questions about this. So I would be more than happy to get those questions answered in advance of the next meeting.
That'd be fine.
Sure.
I think that was the point, is to put it out there so that everybody could have a chance to take a look at it and digest it a little bit. Initially, as we started down the path, I had a couple of questions too that I wanted to get straight in my head. It's certainly an advisory committee, but at the same time, it's an important part of things we do, and it's important for grant applications too. So, and people are putting a lot of effort into it. So,
So we also want to figure out the method of nominating members, how the village and town could do that. And so that'll be good. We can figure that out before the December meeting and have that all set. So that'll make.
So, there won't be any, it doesn't have to be done for the big zoning changes. Will have its own chapter. So, if we need to work through it, we work through it.
Yep.
Can I ask a question about that? Is there a substantial enough cost savings to making changes all at once to either hold one up or hurry one up, or is that not that big a deal?
Well, Sally can probably answer that because she gets to see the bill.
I think probably if this is replacing a whole chapter,
It's going to be a new chapter.
a new chapter, right? So you're probably talking $600 to $1,000 for this section. I don't know that it's going to make any difference whether we do it with the large change or without. I can check on that. I can call them and ask them.
Gonna cost?
Yeah, I can call and ask them.
Thank you.
A large
Who
change.
are we paying and for what?
For what?
Who are we paying and for what? I don't
So
understand.
we would be paying General Code Publisher that takes care of our code book.
So it's
Can't
published
just
on,
upload it.
it's
No.
published online and for, paper for a code.
Is it that big ticket because it's on the E code thing, or would it be that way no matter what?
It would be that way no matter what.
It just costs you to update your code.
It costs, they also check the codes to make sure, for spelling errors, they check for legal things, they check for, which we already do, but that's what you're paying for.
Yeah,
That's what you're paying for.
for.
We would never submit anything with spelling errors because we have editors.
You should charge much more.
You should get your cut of that, Carol.
Maybe-
Get your
Tell me
cut.
what, $200 off because it's been proofread.
That's right.
That's all your time is worth, Carol?
Well, I'm just afraid they might find a typo. They're all B.
You got to raise your rates, Carol.
So
Okay.
at any rate, as the questions
Anna, I
come up.
would be happy to answer any questions. I'm sure Klaus would as well.
Sure.
The Complete Streets Task Force is meeting next week. So I don't know if, actually it'd be great if we talked before that. So in case you had any questions that we wanted to pass along to them, that would be great.
Mhm. Yep.
And same with you, Beth. And Mike. And anybody else.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Okay. Next item, retirement resolutions. Sally, maybe you can explain this better than I.
Yes.
We
So,
all got letters.
so this is it's a reporting requirement by New York State for elected or appointed officials that are not paid hourly. So what has to happen is anybody that reports to the retirement system, that joins the retirement system, would have to do a 3-month study of hours, because that's what their retirement day is based on, their retirement. And we're required to publish this resolution before it's submitted to the state. Board has to approve the resolution first. The 3 people that are on here have done time studies and they're working on new ones. But this is what we have to do in order for them to get credit in the retirement system.
So Sally, can I ask a
Yes.
question? When I did mine in 2018, did
Mhm.
we do this? Did we do
Yes.
a resolution then?
Yes,
They just didn't like my math.
that's correct.
It wasn't my math really, it's how I did it.
Oh,
I don't understand. I didn't get one of these letters that,
Now
You
you're
belong
muted.
to
You just muted
retire- are you-
yourself.
Did you join retirement through the village? So that's why you didn't get a letter.
I think, Anna, it's you and me, because I don't have a letter either. Right, Sally?
That's
I
right.
don't know if Klaus got a letter.
I don't think I got a letter. I didn't join the retirement system through the village, right?
That's
Right.
why.
So
It's
that's why you
only-
didn't get one. Yeah,
It's only
Yeah.
those of us who are expecting to bring in big bucks later.
right.
Right,
so
right.
I'm sorry, I'm still confused. So this is, I mean, fine, it doesn't affect me, right?
Yeah.
But this is the hours, the standard workday for non-hourly people.
So just, right, so the standard workday, you have a choice of either 6 or 8 hours. You only have 2 choices in New York State. You have a 6-hour workday or an 8-hour workday. So normal
And then
work,
you do a time study to say how much of that actual workday you're working.
correct.
So does it prove that we get like 10 cents an hour?
Well, that's what
Well-
I'm thinking.
$1.280.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Got it.
I'm going with my 10 cents.
it's not too
joined-
late to join, Anna, if you change your mind.
I joined because I had previous service and I bought my service back. So
Mhm.
I'll get something out of it.
Is it bad for me to make a motion that we pass this resolution and get it off the goddamn table?
No,
So can I'd be happy to make that motion.
okay, Beth,
I'll second it. Yeah,
okay, Anna seconded it. All in
Beth should make it.
Aye.
Let's get it
Aye.
on the table.
I-
Any opposed? Okay. The next item was a reminder of our annual meeting on the 6th of December at 4 o'clock. And the reason I put it on there like that was if you have any conflicts with the time.
Hold on.
And Anna has a conflict. Beth has a conflict. We did
Was
it.
I here when we set this 4 o'clock meeting?
Yeah, that
I
was set.
was, okay.
That had been set. It's set every year. It's annual. And,
Okay.
I put it there very specifically so that we can change it as needed.
I could, if we're meeting in person, I can do 6. If we're meeting on Zoom, I can do 5:30.
I was thinking we could get it done on Zoom, but you've been through this before, so you know what the
The
details.
quickie, right?
This is going to be super quick, right?
Yeah,
Let's do 6.
I'm gonna ask a lot of questions.
My conflict just happens to be my birthday. I think I mentioned that when it was decided,
Oh.
but if we need to do it that day.
You have to get sworn at.
Yeah, you do have to be sworn in. So don't we have to do that in person?
She has to do that in person, but she can do, it doesn't have to be done at the meeting. She could come in at noon that day, get sworn in, and then participate in the meeting. by Zoom.
We can meet here at the building. It's fine with me.
If we meet there at 6 o'clock, it's going to take us less than half an hour.
Yeah, if
Okay.
you don't ask too many questions.
I promise, Beth.
Somebody bring cupcakes.
Hey,
Beth.
So,
There we
like
go.
we had a meeting on your birthday, didn't we?
Yes.
so 6 o'clock in person in the office.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay,
With cupcakes.
that's a Monday, right? Monday.
Yeah.
It is a Monday.
Monday.
Yeah,
That's the first Monday of
sure,
December.
sure, that works.
Whether you
Now,
like it or
Is
not,
that an all call? Like, do the department heads have to come to that, or is that just us?
it's just us.
Good.
They can sit there if they want.
Well, I'm just trying to get them.
You know they want to.
Yeah.
I,
Now, at the same time, I'll be touching base with everybody about committee assignments and that. So just be prepared if there's, any changes you would like to see when I call you. Anna's ready, to pull her hair out, maybe, I don't know.
Mhm.
We're gonna look at committee assignments and I'll give you each a shout if there's anything in particular you're concerned about. Send me an email or something.
Music committee.
I suspect that things will remain the same, but
Mhm.
hey, maybe one of you has another idea.
Mhm.
Okay. Next item is approval of new fire department members. Elizabeth Brown, Brett Johnson, and Andrew Johnson. I don't think Brett and Andrew are related, however.
oh,
Not that that matters.
mhm.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public comment. I have one to read. I sent it to you so that you could read it yourself, but you also wanted it read. So I'll do that for him. Dave Murphy sent me a note. He wanted to attend and make public comment and he couldn't. So he wanted me to read it, so I agreed. Dear Village Board, I want first to say thank you for installing the first of what I hope will be many speed humps on Judson Street. My observations are that it works. Cars are not going 5 miles an hour, but they're not going 40 either. Cars do slow down from an average of 35 miles an hour to 25, which is exactly what we had hoped they would do. I first came to you all with the idea of traffic calming measures on Judson Street 3 years ago, and it's taken 3 years to get the one speed hump installed. I'm writing today to encourage you all to think about allocating more money to this work next year. I know the budgets are tight, but I can think of no more important endeavor in which to expand our precious tax dollars than the safety of our streets. Judson, Farmer, and State Streets are the main arteries through which our kids walk to and from school every day. We should start there and make sure that the traffic is slowing down to a safe pace, to a safe place. North Country Now has an article up today talking about how trucks are not using the detour around Canton and are filtering through the neighborhood streets. And in one particular area, hopped the curb and destroyed the grass. I know the increased traffic on Judson Street right now is a blip and will hopefully calm down when the construction on Main Street is done. But there is a valuable lesson to be learned. Cars, trucks, and bicycles are always going to take the easiest route from point A to point B. It's for this reason that so many cars come down Judson Street in the first place, to bypass the intersection of Main and 310 or to bypass Main Street altogether. This is just the reality of the situation. It's also the reason for the traffic engineers and urban planners have designed traffic calming measures. These measures ensure that despite increased traffic in certain areas, the traffic will go at a safe pace. This one speed hump on Judson Street is a start. As soon as the cars go around the corner and come down the hill, they pick up speed and accelerate again. Multiple speed humps are required on Judson Street, on Farmer Street, and on State Street to ensure the safety of our children. Thank you for listening to my comments. So there you have it.
He'll be glad to hear that we're doing a raised intersection at Farmer and Judson practically in front of his house. That'll be a big help to further slow down the traffic. And then we'll be discussing further improvements further down Judson Street. There's a number of painting things we can do in addition to humps, especially in front of the DSS building. I've been meaning to get down there with Marty sometime to look at that, but we'll be doing quite a bit further work on Judson Street.
Yeah,
And,
Marty's going to work with the county on getting the lines painted.
Yep. But we can do like some crossing painting and signage there as well. That would
I did that with a smile. Sally, you have your hand up.
I do. There's a comment from Toby. He would like to make a public comment, but can't use video. He's asking for recognition so he can speak.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Toby?
Thank you. I just wanted to make two comments, please. The first in regard to the golf course and winter skiing and so on out there. I heartily agree with markings for safety features and that. There have been, I've skied that for going on 36 years since it's been out there 36 years. The greens and so on are generally respected, I believe. I'd like to see some data on whether we have any problems that need to be rectified. Is there damage to the greens or other places? Are people being inappropriate? And to that end, with the data in hand, I'd like to minimize the need for flags, markers, other things that get put up because of the natural terrain. I think we can respect the property out there and have done so for 36 years. I'm not aware of any problems, but I'd be happy to see that data. So I would respectfully ask those of you who are on the golf committee and going to be considering this, that facility has been used respectfully for a long time. And until we get to the point where we can actually mark trails as they do on the other golf course, I think it would be best to leave it a natural resource as much as possible. My second comment concerns complete streets and the code that has been proposed. The committee would very much like to see any and all questions from individual trustees. Our meetings are always open. I know we have the restriction on who can attend in numbers from the village board, but certainly your questions would be considered. Trustee Sorensen, particularly, you mentioned you had a list. We'd be happy to see that even at next Monday's meeting at 1 o'clock. But please get back to us. We feel very strongly about the need for this code and for the community to move forward with the strength of code. We'd be happy to work out the details of appointment of people and also the collaboration that's necessary with other village committees, such as the planning committee and the infrastructure committee. We don't operate in a vacuum, and we'd be pleased to see any of that reflected in the code that needs to be. So it's a working document. Thank you.
Thanks, Toby.
Thanks, Toby.
That's
Thank
appreciated.
you.
Mike, I just have a quick comment if I can.
Yeah.
Just a quick shout out to the tree committee, who's done a lot of work with a grant and putting 40 new plantings out at Bend of the River Park. So the work that's been done on that has been very much appreciated, and I just wanted to bring that to light here.
Okay.
Yeah, they did a great job. Totally. Yep.
Okay.
Chief's got a
Yes,
question.
Jim?
I just wanted to advise the board, I meant to add it to my report, but I did not, I forgot to. A lot of people may notice that officers of the PD are growing some facial hair this month for November. Just wanted to be clear, I didn't change the dress code. Everyone's does it from now on. We made a very nice donation to a cancer charity to an officer who has since passed away, unfortunately, last year. And we intend to do something similar this year. So I just wanted the board to know that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're not just
you.
looking scruffy.
He's past the scruffy stage now.
Thanks for the clarification.
Okay.
Thank our team for that too.
Yep.
I need a motion to go into executive session for a personnel issue.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Love that.
Okay, Sally, you're gonna stay?
Thank you.
I have a plumbing problem apparently to deal with, so I'm not gonna be, I'm gonna have to try to hurry along here.
At your house?
No marks, but guess
Okay.
what? You can turn the recording off, Sally, when you get a chance.
Okay, I think I'm going to,
Second.
Second.
Okay, now I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, Anna, Klaus, all in
Yep.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Okay.
Night.
Sally,
Thanks,
you'll
everyone.
Turn the recording off, then Beth and I can just quickly do this.